You're welcome to 2025, and now in today's video I'm going to share with you A to Z of bread bakery business. I'm going to give you tips that no one will ever share with you, a clear guide on how to set up your bakery business, and we are going to also discuss this recipe of which of course nobody on the internet will share this recipe with you, and I'm going to give it to you free of charge. I'm also going to further discuss with you how to mix commercial bread in the right way. We're also going to look at oven management. Having said that, don't forget to subscribe. The best way you pay me is to subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, drop your own comments, your suggestions. You can drop a thank you at the comment section to just boost this video. Having said that, let's go straight to the video. Now, the equipment that you need for your bakery business, the basic equipment, there are a lot of equipments out there, but the basic ones are your mixer, which you can start with. You can start with 25 kg capacity. You can also start with that 12.5 kg capacity. You can start with a 50 kg capacity depending on your capital. Now you will also need an oven. Excuse me. You will also need an oven. It could be your electric oven or gas oven or firewood oven, depending on your capital and the location of your business. Location, because if you are located where there is constant power supply, then you should go for electric oven. If you're located where there is no constant power supply, then you should go for either firewood oven or gas oven. So these are the things that will guide your choice of oven. Now you will also need the slicing machine for sliced bread. Now, apart from that, you need tables, for the molding, for cutting and all those stuffs. You need a scale, a digital scale. Don't use that manual with arrow. That will not give you an accurate reading. So go for a digital scale where the one you can just put a battery or you just recharge. So those are the ones that are very good. Now, let's look at the next one. You need your knives, of course, your pans are very, very important. Some racks where you will arrange the baked breads and baked products, and also some of the recipes that you get, you can also arrange them on your rack. So some persons will say also add fridge or refrigerator. I don't see the need, because in this video I'm going to discuss with you excluding ice block or cold water. You don't need it. So let's dive in deeper. Now the next step is the recipe. Let's quickly dive into this 50 kg capacity recipe. Now, this is a beautiful secret, and I'm going to expose so many things, deep things in this video. Drop your comments. Now, for 50 kg of flour, you will need already 50 kg. So you will need sugar, 6 kg. Those of you that use sweetener, it's not healthy, frequent use of it. If you are eating your bread always and you are using sweetener, intense sweetener, it may cause harm to your body. So I don't recommend it, but the government do not frown at it. So you can use your sweetener, and I'm not here to give you the quantity to add. But if you're using sweetener, you may reduce this one to about 4 kg. That is why they use it, so that it will substitute to reduce the quantity of sugar. So this, for sugar, we have 6 kg. Now for your butter or margarine, some people call it margarine, some people call it butter, or some Ghanaians call it butter. So for your butter, you can add 1.6 kg, that is 1 kg, 600 grams. Very clear. I hope you follow me to that point. Now for your yeast, some persons use 400, which is the 450 grams, which is the recommended quantity. But if you want to be fast, you can add extra 50 grams. That is, you can use 450 to 500 grams. This will also depend on the weather condition. That means if you're in a cold area, your yeast may not act fast, because yeast always love a warm environment. The optimum temperature for yeast is between 28 degrees to 35 degrees. It works well. So once the temperature is lower than 25, I tell you, it will slow down the proofing rate of your bread, thereby slowing down your production. So at that point, you can increase the quantity of yeast. Also, you can activate it, What I mean by that is you pour in your water, maybe a little bit lukewarm water, maybe just lukewarm water, and then add your sugar, add your yeast, stir it for a while, slow mix it. If you are using the mixer, slow mix it and allow it to rest for like 10 minutes. If you look at it, there will be small bubbles coming or foams will be formed small somehow around the corner. That tells you that the yeast is working because it has started making use of the sugar. Then you can pour your flour and start mixing. That way the yeast is more active. Although if you are using instant dry yeast, you don't need to activate it, but just for fast purpose. Now let's look at Improver 100 grams. This 100 grams is for EDC. EDC is a type of improver. EDC is a dough conditioner. So you don't buy a dough conditioner, another brand of improver that they just write dough conditioner. It means improver. So if you buy another brand and then you buy EDC, you're wasting materials. They will do the same thing. EDC simply means the E stand for idling, D stand for dough, and then the C conditioner. So you don't be confused. So it was manufactured or invented by idling. So it's an improver. It's a dough conditioner. Now let's go further. Your flavor, I write 100 grams. Now you should watch my video on flavor combination. That way you have a clear understanding on how to combine your flavors to have a better result. So if you're using, let's say, milk flavor combined with banana flavor, or milk flavor combined with vanilla flavor, milk flavor combined with or vanilla flavor combined with nutmeg, these are combinations we make to have a unique taste. One of the key secrets in bread production and success is the uniqueness of your loaf. Apart from the shape and design, how you mold it, the uniqueness of the taste, the aroma. That is one of the first things that invites the customer. When they look at it, the appearance is beautiful, and they come close to the bread. The next thing to observe or that would attract the customer is the aroma. So you have to take time to work on the flavor that you will use, and it should be unique. You will get that unique one not by just using vanilla or nutmeg or milk flavor or banana flavor, but if you combine 1 or 2, 3, it will give you something different that nobody will have. Now, so you have that as 100 grams. It depends on how you want it. It's just like salt. If you want it very strong, you can increase it. If you want it moderate, then you use 100 grams. Let's look at eggs. This is totally optional. Egg is optional. What I mean is that you can actually bake your bread without using egg. So although it improves the taste and the quality of the bread, but you can do away with it, especially if you are distributing to roadside stores and small retail stores. Those people that just need a loaf of bread, they need volume and not quality. But if your bread is for quality and not volume alone, then you should use egg. Let's look at further. The salt is 500 grams. There are those that use 600 grams. No cause for alarm. Let me tell you this. If you forget salt, your bread will likely collapse. After you mix, mold and pan, and the bread kicks. After a while, it will just collapse. Most times in the oven, it will just collapse. So salt is very important. Although the real recipe or the real ingredient that actually sustain your bread, hold the bread not to collapse, is not salt but EDC or bread improver. However, if you fail to use this one, there is always a negative effect on the bread. Now let's look at oil. You can reduce the quantity of butter by adding oil. It's a secret. So instead of using 1.6 kg, you can actually use 1.2 kg and increase the quantity of oil. Oil serves like butter, and it also helps to make your bread elastic, very elastic. Let me point it out. When you mix and the dough is smooth, before you remove it, sprinkle some oil. You will see within 2 to 3 minutes, the elasticity of your dough will increase. The dough will be very elastic. So oil is an emulsifier and improves the the elasticity, the gluten quality of your dough. Now let's look at preservative. I always recommend calcium propionate as preservative to use because it's very good, it's very effective. However, there are those that use ascorbic acid, and a lot of preservatives are out there, but for me, I always use calcium propionate. Now, this is in one of my videos, I did not reveal the type of softener I use, which is an enzyme that can replace the egg. If you're using this enzyme, just remove your egg and also milk. You can remove them. You can see in this recipe there is no milk because of the presence of this enzyme, and the enzyme's name is ADV. The enzyme's name is ADV, or you can also call it advanced. This is how it is spelled: advanced C. I want to show you how it is spelled on the sachet. You will see it like this kind of combination. So advanced CBIC softener, bread softener, or you can call it ADV bread softener. The popular one is ADV bread softener. So they are the same thing, just different names. People call it differently, okay? That's why I'm giving you the two names. So this enzyme is very active. It can sustain the softness of your bread for 7 days. And it makes your bread to look fresh. Not just the softness, but fresh. And the bread will always appear very fresh. You can see it on the screen, the sachet. And so for that, you can use 10 to 15 grams. It's boldly written on the sachet. You can see water is 20 to 25 liters. Now, this is like this because different brands of flour behave differently. The absorption capacity are not the same. For instance, if you buy Golden Penny and maybe Dangote, they may not receive the same water. And so the water ranges this way. Now, if you are mixing, you don't just measure 25 liters and pour. Some flour may not take it, so the dough will end up being messy. So what you do is you start the mixing with about 20 liters, and then you drop the other ones gradually and observe the texture and the softness of your dough. This is so with this recipe, I tell you, you have a good loaf of bread to serve. Now let's look at mixing. There are 3 different methods of mixing, but for this video, I'm going to share with you only one approach, and that is the dry method. The dry method is you start with your flour. That means you measure your 50 kg of flour into the mixer. After that, you measure your sugar in, your butter in. You have to skip the yeast for now, and then you pour in, you add every other ingredient and your salt. And then you slow mix these ingredients without water, without yeast, for like 2 minutes, so as to break down the butter and every other thing. The next thing now is for you to pour the water and the yeast the same time. This is dry method. And then you continue mixing. Let me give you some tips. Sometimes people think that mixing should last 15 minutes or 16 minutes or maybe 20 minutes. I don't use time because, just as I mentioned, different brands of flour, the mixing rate may not be the same. So if you use time, and let's say the Dangote flour takes about, let's say 15 or 16 minutes to mix to the beautiful dough. It may not happen the same way with your Golden Penny. It may take like 18 minutes. So you see that if it depends on time alone, you may miss the real quality dough. What you do is to observe the signs the dough will display. Now let's look at it this way. When you have added every ingredient and the mixing is in progress, at that point dough is formed. How will you know that this dough is okay? I'm going to give you 3 signs that you look out for. And then when you see these signs, you should be convinced that this is okay. The first one is the obvious one, which is smoothness. The smoothness of the dough should tell you that the dough is getting ready, because it's not the only criteria. So when you look at the dough and it's getting smooth, or is smooth, you know that, okay, my dough is getting ready. The next thing you should check is the elasticity of the dough. That means you should cut a certain quantity of the dough, a certain just small portion of the dough, and stretch. If it is elastic, it tells you that the gluten has been formed, and then your dough is elastic. Now, if it is elastic but not all that stretchy, then you should sprinkle the oil I mentioned initially, and then continue the mixing for like 3 minutes. That will improve the smoothness and the elasticity of the dough. Now, the last thing you should check on is when the dough is elastic and is smooth, the sound of mixing will change. Initially, when there is water and the dough is somehow not totally absorbed, you will always hear the splashy sound, because the dough is not smooth and there is water, some elements of water. Now, when the dough is totally formed and is elastic, it's okay for you to remove and transfer to the table. The sound of mixing will change to from a splashy sound to a more organized, fluffy sound. Now, that fluffy sound, there is a kind of sound like a popping sound that will always come once in a while as the spiral mixer is mixing. Then you hear that popping sound like someone who is popping gum. That popping sound will always come once in a while, because as the thing is rotating and the dough is elastic, air is trapped. So when air is trapped, it pops out. So that popping will always come out. That popping sound will never be there initially. It will be splashy sound. Once the dough is elastic and smooth, that is why you hear that popping sound once in a while. That is one thing you should do. Now, some people always complain of bread scattering. That is because, one, you did not mix well. Two, the ratio of your ingredients combination was not balanced. Three, the temperature of baking was too high. So when you use high temperature to bake, it will result to that. The fourth thing I will tell you is, when you expose your already baked bread to fan to cool it, it will definitely lead to that bread scattering and crystallization. Now, so many ask, there are a lot of questions I received that are uncalled for. Just follow the right principles of mixing, right ratio, the right temperature, and you will get that good quality or high quality loaf of bread. Now, let's look at oven operation. If I'm helping you in this video, please drop your comment, click the like button and subscribe. Now let's look at oven operation. Oven operation is simple but technical. Now, if you set your oven, I'm using centigrade. Let's start this way. When you transfer it to the table, you cut mold and pan, and then you allow it to rise maybe 80% to fill the pan. And then when you are ready to, when it's close to 80, let's say 60%, you on the oven and allow it to heat. Let the oven be, heated to about 220 degrees centigrade. Now, when the dough is ready, the oven is at 200 or 220. You load and set your oven back to 180 degrees centigrade. You set your oven back to 180 degrees centigrade so that it should bake from that temperature. As soon as you load and you set it, the temperature will gradually drop to that optimum, beautiful temperature. Baking temperature is between 180 degrees centigrade to 220 degrees centigrade. Now, if you bake at 220 degrees centigrade, definitely after 2 days, crystallization will set in and your bread will likely scatter. If you bake at 200, the same thing. If you escape burning, these things will happen. So I always recommend 180 to 195 as baking temperature, and it will give you that beautiful glowing loaf that you so desire. Now, the last thing I will discuss concerning the oven operation is that when you buy or when you have an oven, let's say for the first time you want to operate that oven. Don't just set because I said it's 220, you set. No. Observe the oven, because some ovens misbehave. The temperature on the thermometer may be different from the temperature inside the oven. So learn to feel with your hand. Put in your hand and feel the heat. If it is too hot, you should be able to know that this is too hot for my bread. Now, if it is too low, you should also know, because thermometers sometimes misbehave and give us wrong reading, wrong result. So learn to observe. Study your oven before ever you actually start using it to bake commercial quantity. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. Drop your comment. Thank you is enough. You can also say no compliment. Do say something on the comment section. God bless you. See you in our next video. Remain blessed.